Hello, this is Lawrence Robinson bringing you the Community Steeple Show. The show is brought to you in part by C&C Pharmacy, Emma's Homestyle Cooking, and Malik, the Lock King. We are having a conversation with Veronica Nealy-Morris. Veronica is an author, entrepreneur, teacher, and motivational speaker. She is a dynamic communicator that speaks from her heart to yours with clarity and understanding. She uses her experience from her trials and tribulations and has transformed them into a journey of encouragement and joy through the Word of God. She has taught and facilitated many classes on various topics such as change, the power of words, the art of communication, and the effect of abuse. Veronica Nealy-Morris is the author of 2 life-changing books, All Jacked Up and My Dreams Revealed, along with a journal to write your dreams called The Dream Journal, in which they all can be found on www.lulu.com and www.amazon.com. She is the founder of Keep It Simple, Saints, which is a ministry that focuses on equipping people with simple and practical tools to use every day through God's Word. Veronica is also the brainchild of Single Women Toolkit. This is a toolkit that Veronica has created specifically for the individual woman because she knows one size does not fit all, plus some items that are essential for every woman. This will be coming out in 2014. Veronica Nealy-Morris is a native of Florida, born in the small town of Clewiston, Florida, the 3rd child of 8 children. She began her career as a respiratory therapist in Miami and continued working in that field in Orlando for a total of 16 years. While living in Orlando, she attended the Institute of Theology and Ministry Training, earning her degree in Biblical Studies. In 2011, Veronica left a wonderful company where she had worked for over 13 years as lead therapist and began walking in the purpose God placed in her heart over 20 years ago, and has not looked back since, and is living the dream, encouraging, inspiring, and motivating women at all levels of life, one person at a time. She currently lives in Orlando, Florida with her husband, with retired Master Sergeant Robert L. Morris. She has a beautiful daughter and 2 lovely grandchildren. Okay, we are having a conversation with Veronica Nealy-Morris, who has written a book titled All Jacked Up. I read this book. This book is absolutely phenomenal. The one thing I like about this book is it's unpretentious. Veronica, you there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. Tell us, when did you start writing this book?
Well, I started writing this book about 20 years ago, believe it or not, but I really didn't have the courage to complete it due to the fact that it had a lot of sensitive matters in there, and I didn't want to offend anyone. At the very end, I would say I started last year and I completed it. I restarted last year and I completed it last year.
Okay. So you started it 20 years ago.
Over 20 years ago. I felt the need to write it 20 years ago, but I didn't have the courage. But by the grace of God, I did gain the courage, and I did write it, and it's now available.
Yeah. I noticed in the writing that it was written just like you talk. And that's one of the things I liked about it. It was like you were talking the book. You say some things, and then that was in the past, and then you analyze it from the future standpoint as looking back. Was that planned, or is that just how it happened?
That's kind of how it happened. I would say I'm more of a communicative writer. I write the way I talk.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't anything planned. I wanted my heart and my feelings and my emotions and everything to be in the book. I wanted the book to really depict what I wanted to say, and that's the only way I know how to do it, is just to be who I am.
Okay, so you start writing this book 20 years ago, which means you started writing it right after you got out of the situation.
I started journaling, writing in a journal.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Which was a part of therapy, which eventually formed into a book. So when I say 20 years ago, I started journaling, and that kind of helped me process my thoughts.
Right.
Kind of get through that I was going through.
So you were writing it, right after you, as a journal. like you said, and you're still pretty much going through it. The part where you were dating the guy that you eventually married, you were actually writing the book while you were going through that also.
That is correct. I was actually journaling during that time, yes.
Okay, all right. You called a lot of people by name in this book. Do you feel that have you talked to them since then, since the book has come out?
Well, there's only 2 actual names in the book. I changed all the names except for John.
Okay.
He gave me permission to do it. And Aunt Maisie, because she's deceased and she's my aunt. All the other names other than my name has been changed.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, because you kept talking about the Clewiston and Harlem being so small and everybody knows everybody.
Well, I definitely wanted to mention my hometown. It's Clewiston.
Mm-hmm.
People that know me somewhat know of the story, but I didn't name names for legal reasons, of course.
Sure.
But if you're from my hometown and you read the story, you basically have an idea of what I'm talking about and who I'm talking about. But since I didn't get permission from them to use their name, just from a legal standpoint, I did not use their actual name.
Right. Okay. When this first started with your dad, you say you're about 5 years old?
That is correct.
Okay. And you had no idea what was going on. What did you think he was doing?
Well, at that age, I would say the age of innocence, you really don't know what's going on because you've never heard of sex or incest or rape or anything like that. And being brought up in a quote Christian home, and father being, as I said, they call him minister, you really didn't have words to put to what was going on. But even at that age, you knew something was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Not able to articulate what was going on, but a kid, at that age, I knew something just wasn't right. There's something on the inside of us kind of lets us know what's right, what's acceptable, and what's wrong. So like what the Bible calls an inward witness. I knew something was wrong. I just didn't feel right. But even to tell someone, how do you form the word? Remember, that's been many years ago. Children back then, they didn't really talk.
Right. So now you're in a room with all your siblings, and none of them anticipated what was going on?
At the time, and I have to say this here, I can only write the book about me.
Right.
My story, so I can't really mention them. So, again, we were from a home where folks just did not communicate.
Mm-mm.
So, and even if I was able to communicate, what were we going to say? How were we going to form those words?
Sure. Yeah.
You don't know what's going on. So, and if I'm 5, I'm the third from the oldest, and one was 6 and one was 7. I mean, what would you say?
Exactly. So the bottom line is you just lost your complete childhood.
Oh, absolutely. I didn't really gain my, I'll call it sanity back until I was in my late, maybe, I would say within the last 7 to 8 years ago when I really, really was able to really be delivered because it affected my childhood, adulthood, my entire life up until the last 7 years. And basically just getting tired of going through all these different zones and feeling this way and just not feeling, quote, normal.
Mm-hmm.
Later on I find that there's no such thing as normal.
How do your siblings talk about it now? Do you talk about it now? I know you still are in contact with your older sister and your mom. How is that relationship?
It's such a sensitive issue to talk about, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that we still don't talk about. And this is not, again, the abuse and all that, this is not anything new. This is so prevalent in families. The thing is this, you have this huge white elephant, a pink elephant, a green elephant in the homes, and it's still a taboo subject to talk about.
Right.
So we still don't talk about it. I got a lot of flack about the book. As a matter of fact, love my family dearly, all much respect for them, but no one has read it because it's really a tough thing to read.
Mm-hmm.
But my point of writing the book is not to point fingers because this is just my story. We all have a story. I had to write this book in order to give you a picture of where I come from, what has made me who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
The process of delivered. You don't have to go through abuse, sexual abuse or what have you, physical abuse, emotional abuse in order to be checked up. My main thing is the process of deliverance. Regardless of what your situation is, you can come out the other side.
Right.
So that's not something we basically avoid the conversation altogether. We just pretend like it didn't happen. And I've learned to deal with that because I could have lost a lot of relationships because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But, I prayed about it. Lord, I can't, I can't pretend. It is what it is. I'm not blaming anyone, but it has tremendously affected my life, and I would even say my family's life. Their part.
Now, in the book, you talked about, you went to church as a child. It was a relief to get away from home. But you were there because of that reason. I mean, your mother made you go, and it was good because you were away from your dad at the point. But how did religion and your spirituality fit into getting you through all of this?
Well, actually, my parents didn't make me go. Again, my father was a, quote, minister, so that was just the norm. That's what you did at our house. You went to church on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And not only was he at the church, but the abuse would occur on your way to church and your way home from church.
Right.
So what I liked about church, looking back, is that was an opportunity for me to cry and nobody asked what was going on, because that's what you did in the Pentecostal church back then.
Mm-hmm.
You jumped around, cried. So that gave me a reason to express, because I couldn't really articulate what I wanted to articulate. I didn't know how to, and in fact then, children was to be seen and not heard. So I didn't know how to form the words, so that was the only time I could release whatever was going on the inside, because you couldn't just cry for no reason at home.
Right.
So that was an opportunity. And how it affected me religiously, that was my safe haven. But the thing about it, up until the last 7 or 10 years, I only had a religious experience. I didn't have a relationship with my Heavenly Father. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when the change took place, when I actually got a relationship, not just a religious experience. I knew how to do everything according to church. But that was just emotion. That was a temporary fix that did not work for me.
Okay, so you've gotten through all of this. And everything is going well for you now. Do you think that you're completely through it except for the thoughts? I mean, since a lot of people say that once you tell your story after something like this, it releases you of all the pain. Do you feel you are completely released from the pain now?
I was released before the book was published. I think it's important that you do go through the process before you actually write the book, because you get hit really hard. And if you're not ready, I mean, you can't handle it, because you get a lot of rejection. You get a lot of angry, loving family members, if that's not an oxymoron, right? Loving family members. You take a lot of weight on this here. I was delivered before the book was actually put to print. I totally 100% forgive my father. I wish he was alive today so I can tell him, listen, I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to know what makes a person do something like that. But I've learned through the years that hurt people. I'm not sure what his past was, because we never really talked.
Mm-hmm.
But I have absolutely no residual unforgiveness whatsoever. But I'm proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
So many people that are older than I am that are still struggling in that area. I had to decide either I want to stay right here or I want to be set free.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me not to forgive him is like taking poison and waiting for somebody else to die.
Okay. As a child, how would you have told your mother? Or I know you didn't, but seemed like there could have been a way. Do you think that she failed in not knowing what was going on with you?
I would say at some point in time, no, she did not know, because you just don't think of anything like that. Again, preacher, and that's just, you just don't think of that. But I think eventually I know she eventually found out, because eventually he got shot.
Right.
And I know it had to do with something about that. And then one time he actually called us all into the room, and he didn't say exactly what he did,
Mm-hmm.
but he said that he was sorry. And I've heard my mom and my dad have a conversation of her saying something like, I just can't believe you did that. But again, we never talked. And even up to today, we don't mention it. I can talk to my mom about anything, but that's just something that never comes up. And I purposely don't do that to some degree, because I know that she may blame herself, but I don't blame her. She was young.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we're going to take a 1 minute break right here, and we'll be back, and we're going to talk about the future of what you're doing. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for listening. I am Lawrence A. Robinson, and this is the Community Steeple Show, brought to you in part by C&C Pharmacy, 407-295-6101, Emma's Homestyle Cooking, 407-422-8655, and Malik, the Lock King Master Barber, 407-618-9327. Community Steeple is also affiliated with the United Fellowship of Community Churches International. The United Fellowship of Community Churches is a group of local churches who have band together to support the community by supporting local businesses and organizations, and also the Urban Orlando Business.com online business directory, specializing in promoting local urban businesses that support the community. Okay, all right, we are back. I'm sitting here with, on the line is Veronica Nealy-Morris, who's written this book, All Jacked Up. Phenomenal book. I read it. It's written in everyday language. She writes like she talks. It was a very, very comfortable read for me. Very comfortable. Okay, is there anything else you want to say about this book before we move on to the next part of your life?
Yes, the main thing I want to talk about this book is this book was not written to, be a sad book about a girl that was abused. Mm-hmm. The purpose of this book was to paint a picture of abuse. I wanted the readers to know that I really was jacked up, so when they do read the book, My Dreams Revealed, they'll see where I come from. The thing about abuse in any area, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, sexual, what have you, the main thing is you have to tell somebody. You have to talk about it, even if you hurt the ones that you love. Long term, it affects everybody. There are so many things that are happening in my family now because of the abuse. It has totally paralyzed so many family members, but not being able to talk about it and pinpoint it back to the abuse. And we still have a lot of struggles in the family. I just happen to be one that came out first, and I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, because when you come out first, and you do take all the weight.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Now you're moving into motivational speaking.
That is correct.
Okay. When you're out talking, you're talking about this book, right? I know you've written another book, but do you do a lot of talking about this book and about your life and to girls and women about what's going on with this?
Well, when I do my motivational speaking, it's not always about the book, but the book is always brought up. It depends on what the subject is, and I always reference that, because when I talk about whatever I'm talking about, people really don't believe that I was once upon a time all jacked up. Then I'll make a reference to the book. But the main thing is to motivate whether a person has been, like I said, abused or just don't have the courage to do what they were created to do. So it depends on the subject that I'm talking about. My thing is you can do anything you set your mind to do it. And then I'll reference back to the book. Proof of this is I'm doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I'm a motivational speaker. I'm an author. I own my own business. I talk to, hang out with millionaires. I talk to very educated men and women because I knew that I had something great inside of me. I don't have a full college degree. I went through the Vo-Tech way of getting the education. However, at the hospital, I was the supervisor there. Everything I did, I was top of my game. My thing is whatever you put your mind to do, you can do it. I always say I'm not the most eloquent speaker nor the writer, but I'm who I am. And my thing is to encourage people to be who they are. Don't try to mimic anybody else, and don't try to compare yourself to anybody else, because there's only one original. Can't nobody be me, and nobody can be whoever the individual person is. And it's unbelievable how many people I run across in life that are kind of stuck in church, especially first things, because we grew up in the church and we were waiting for God to give us direction on where to go, and we're waiting 20 years instead of just doing that thing that's in your heart. Another thing I like to talk about is, you have to be a self-motivator, because you're not going to get anybody to really believe in you until you believe in yourself. Eventually, the crowd will come along, and that's the number one issue that a lot of people have. I don't feel I can do it. It's not about feeling, it's about doing.
Okay, so you motivate people to get out and do it, to come up with a plan, to actually work your plan, believe in God, believe in your own spirituality, but just get out and do it. Do you have any talks or speeches coming up soon?
Yes, I sure do. I have a conference called Ladies Ladies Keys in Fort Lauderdale coming up in June. I don't know the exact date. I also have a speaking engagement for May the 4th called When a Man Loves a Woman here in Orlando, and I don't have the specific details, but you can look on my Facebook page and find that information out. Or you can hit me at my email address, and I'll send you the information. Right now, we're building my website for Kids Ministries.
Oh, very good. Building your website. Got 2 books out. Doing a lot of speaking engagements. When did the book get published?
Last year around November.
Okay.
November last year.
How's the sales? I've seen it on Amazon.
And so far, I've sold about 560 books without advertising. I think that's pretty good. That's just word of mouth.
That's excellent. That's excellent. And we hope that what we're doing here is going to move that quite a bit also. What I would like to see this mandatory read in a lot of churches, because I got a lot out of it, and I could see where people could learn a lot. You know, I would like to know how a mother could ask questions and talk to their children so they could find out earlier when something is going on. Because, you know, reading your book, I realized your mother really didn't know, because when she knew, she pulled out a gun. You know, it would have been something she had known, you know, earlier. How could a mother know? But except to just what? Go ahead.
I would say one of the key things is why so many things go on, whether it's in my home, your home, the church, or wherever you have you. It's a lack of communicating.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lack of communication. It's a relationship, because not being that close to my parents, because they loved me, but it was never expressed, even though I know they did, or I felt they did. Not communicating. If you're like, I have a daughter who's 28 years old. She's the vice president of the business that we own.
Oh, okay.
We talk. I know her. I know when there's something going on. All the different signs are there.
Mm-hmm.
When you're missing in action, when you're, when there's something wrong with your child, when you're connected, that connection, when you're connected to your child, you just know something is wrong. And if that child can't tell you what's wrong, I'm going to observe my daughter long enough to know there's a problem. I may not even tell her I'm observing her, but I'm watching her. I may even follow her to find out there's something going on. Mm-hmm. So it's just like our relationship with Christ. We don't communicate. We may talk, but we don't communicate. We don't listen for nonverbal communication, nonverbal signs, silent sounds. All the signs are there. When you have a child that, they leave the house with their dad and they're missing for 4 and 5 hours, that's a problem. When you're going on vacation, your child is traumatized because she don't want to go with daddy, that's a problem.
Sure.
When your child's completely shut down, there is a problem. When she's not functioning in school, she's just existing, there's a problem. You got to stop going to 6 high schools and within 3 years, there's a problem. So all the signs are there.
Yeah.
You have a child afraid to take a bath, afraid to wear night clothes.
Right.
They're the problem.
Sure.
So all the signs there, but unfortunately, and I'm a 100% born again Christian. A lot of times we just say Jesus, 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 and we're not paying attention to what's going on around us.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for this conversation. We really appreciate it, and I will make sure that information about your conference and other meetings go up on this information also, so everybody will see it with your email address, so they can contact you and buy the book. The book is a phenomenal book. Okay, Veronica, thank you very much for this interview. Really appreciate it, okay?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.